Whenever I dive into 3D beat-em-up games, I'm amazed by how they take classic brawler combat and open it into real three-dimensional spaces where you can roam, combo, and smack enemies from all directions. These games move past old side-scrolling routes and push you into immersive environments with cinematic fights, dynamic enemy encounters, and fluid movement that feels way more modern. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to 13 absolute 3D beat-em-up games, and I need you guys to let me know in the comments which ones you've already played.
They have the president's daughter in there.
We have to get her out as soon as possible.
Die Hard Arcade. If you ever walked into an arcade in the late 90s, this one probably grabbed you instantly. Developed by Sega for arcades in 1996 and later on the Sega Saturn, this game is basically chaotic fun in its purest form. It was actually a westernized version of Dynamite Cop, loosely tied to the Die Hard license. What makes it feel special is how interactive everything feels. You can grab enemies, use random objects like chairs and rockets, and trigger QuickTime button events before they were even trendy. This combat is simple, but surprisingly tactical for its time, with combos and situational throws. The cheesy voice acting and over-the-top action give it that classic arcade flavor. It's loud, fast, and ridiculous, and that's why I love it. If you enjoy couch co-op and old-school arcade, this is an absolute must-play.
Man, nothing's changed. Place is still a dump. Oh, what's up?
It's been so long, Junior.
Spikeout Battle Street. Released in 2005 for the original Xbox, it's based on Sega's arcade Spikeout and pushes 3D brawling into more open areas. Instead of just moving left to right, you're running around full 3D spaces, grabbing enemies, launching them into walls, juggling them midair, and chaining combos in ways that felt ahead of its time. It's chaotic but skill-based. You really have to manage crowds, positioning, and stamina. The multiplayer, especially, is where it shines. 4 players smashing through waves of street thugs together feels amazing. Visually, it's pure early 2000s arcade energy with bright colors and exaggerated characters. It never got a huge home release, which makes it kind of legendary among retro fans. If you like beat-em-ups that reward skill and crowd control, Spikeout still feels surprisingly modern. Tekken Force. Okay, so this one is kinda messy, but I still like it. Developed by Core Design and released in 1997 on PlayStation and PC, Tekken Force tried to bring the Streets of Rage formula into full 3D. It didn't fully stick the landing, but I admire the ambition. You fight through city streets in open environments where you can pick up pipes, crates, and basically anything not nailed down. The combat feels slower compared to arcade titles, but the environmental destruction was cool for its time. It has that late 90s gritty vibe that screams nostalgia. Critics were mixed, but a lot of retro fans remember it fondly because it was one of the early attempts at 3D brawling on home consoles. It's rough around the edges, sure, but if you enjoy experimental PS1 era action games, this one certainly has charm. Warriors. This one right here is special. Developed by Rockstar Toronto and released in 2005 for PlayStation 2 and Xbox, The Warriors is based on the 1979 cult film. And honestly, it's one of the best movie-to-game adaptations ever made. The combat feels weighty and brutal. You're not just mashing buttons, you're grappling, countering, recruiting gang members, and managing crowd fights in tight city spaces. There's a raw street energy to it. The missions mix story-driven brawls with open gang warfare, and co-op makes it even better. Visually, it nails that gritty New York vibe. People still praise it for how immersive it feels. If you want a story-heavy 3D beat-em-up with personality and atmosphere, this is absolutely essential. Mortal Kombat: Shaolin Monks. When this game dropped on PlayStation 2 and Xbox in 2005, it surprised everyone. Instead of a fighting game, we got a co-op 3D beat-em-up starring Liu Kang and Kung Lao. And honestly, it works beautifully. The combat blends traditional beat-em-up crowd control with Mortal Kombat's combos and brutal fatalities. You're juggling enemies, launching them into spikes, solving light platform puzzles, and unlocking new abilities. Co-op feels incredibly smooth, and the progression system keeps you invested. It was praised for reinventing the franchise in a fresh way. For fans of arcade Mortal Kombat and brawler combat, this is one of the most fun spin-offs ever made.
The huge cruiser. They're holding 2,000 hostages inside, including the president's daughter. We have to invade the ship, clear the pirates, and rescue the hostages, especially the president's daughter.
Dynamite Cop. When I think of pure arcade insanity, this is the game that instantly pops into my head. Developed and released by Sega in arcades in 1998 and later on Dreamcast, this is basically the wild cousin of Die Hard Arcade. You're storming a ship full of pirates, and the weapons you use are just ridiculous. Rocket launchers, machine guns, chairs, even a giant tuna. And somehow, it all works. Combat is simple but super satisfying, built around grabs, throws, and environmental chaos. What I love most is the branching paths. Depending on where you go, you'll fight different bosses and see different areas, which makes replaying it actually fun. It's loud, cheesy, and totally self-aware. Nobody plays this for the realism. You play it for the pure co-op arcade energy. If you love fast, chaotic brawlers that don't take themselves seriously, this one absolutely delivers. Tekken Force. Now this one is technically a bonus mode, but for me, it felt like a full game back then. Hidden inside Tekken 3 on the original PlayStation and developed by Namco, Tekken Force lets you take iconic fighting game characters and throw them into a side-scrolling beat-em-up format. And honestly, that concept alone was genius. Instead of random brawler moves, you use actual Tekken combos. You can juggle enemies, sidestep attacks, and use proper fighting mechanics against waves of soldiers. It feels more technical than most beat-em-ups because positioning and timing really matter. It's short, sure, but it was such a cool surprise mode at the time. Fans loved it because it blended two genres perfectly. If you grew up with Tekken, this mode felt like unlocking something special, and it still holds nostalgic charm today. Sifu. This game literally proves that 3D beat-em-ups can still evolve. Developed by Slow Clap and released in 2022 on PS4, PS5, and PC, with later versions on Xbox consoles and Nintendo Switch, Sifu is all about mastery. The aging mechanic is brilliant. Every time I die, my character gets older, stronger, but closer to permanent death. That alone changes how I approach fights. Combat is tight and realistic, inspired by real martial arts. You have to manage your structure meter, break enemy posture, dodge at the right angle, and read attack patterns carefully. Button mashing just doesn't work here. Every encounter feels intense and personal. The level design encourages replaying stages to perfect your performance. Critics praised its depth and difficulty, and I totally get why. If you want a challenging, skill-based brawler that respects your time and effort, this is one of the best modern examples. Rise of Sin Tzu. Back in 2003, if you were a fan of Batman the Animated Series, this game felt like a dream. Developed by Ubisoft Montreal and released on PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube, and Game Boy Advance, it fully embraced that cartoon style. What I like most is the co-op gameplay. You can switch between Batman, Robin, Batgirl, and Nightwing, and each character has a slightly different combat flow. It's built around crowd control. You're constantly surrounded, so using gadgets, combo chains, and area attacks becomes important. It's not as deep as modern superhero games, but it captures that classic animated vibe perfectly. The original villain, Sin Tzu, was created specifically for the game, which made it feel fresh. Fans appreciated its faithful tone and multiplayer focus. If you love old school superhero brawlers with couch co-op energy, this one is definitely worth revisiting.
Are we still following this guy?
He's the one making the zombies. To catch him, we have to follow. Let's go.
Zombie Revenge. Zombie Revenge blends shooting mechanics with classic beat-em-up combat. 1 second, I'm punching zombies with combo strings, and the next, I'm pulling out a firearm to clear space. Originally an arcade game on Sega's Naomi hardware, Zombie Revenge was ported to the Sega Dreamcast in 1999. The hybrid system in this game keeps things fast and unpredictable. The movement feels snappy, and the boss fights are completely over the top, almost like a B-movie horror flick. It doesn't try to be scary, it tries to be fun, and it absolutely is. The arcade pacing means levels move quickly, and co-op makes it even better. Critics were mixed, but a lot of retro fans love it for its personality. If you enjoy chaotic zombie action with that Dreamcast-era charm, this one still holds up for pure fun. Anarchy Reigns. When this launched in 2012 for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, it felt like a multiplayer-focused evolution of the beat-em-up genre. Instead of linear stages, you're thrown into large arenas filled with enemies and other players. The combat is fast, flashy, and built around big signature moves called killer weapons. Every character feels exaggerated and loud, from cyborg ninjas to chainsaw-wielding anti-heroes. What I really enjoy is how chaotic matches become. Explosions everywhere, environmental hazards, and constant movement. It wasn't a massive hit at launch, partly because of marketing issues, but it gained a cult following. Fans appreciate its energy and over-the-top design.
Damn it, they beat us to it?
We arrived at the target coordinate.
The Bouncer. I still remember how cinematic this felt when the PlayStation 2 launched. Developed by Square, now Square Enix, and released in 2000, this was one of the system's early showcases. It looked incredible at the time, with detailed character models and dramatic cutscenes. The gameplay is structured like an interactive action movie. You choose between 3 characters, and depending on who you pick, certain story paths and scenes will change. Combat is straightforward, light and heavy attacks, special moves, and crowd fights, but it feels smooth and flashy. It's short, which critics pointed out, but the presentation carries it. For me, it represents that early PS2 experimental era when developers were blending cinematic storytelling with arcade-style action.
Stage 3, Luna Park.
Demolish Fist. Ending on a slightly more obscure arcade gem, this one feels like a raw throwback to early 2000s 3D brawlers. Released in 2003 on Sammy's Atomized Wave software, Demolish Fist is a 2.5D beat-em-up where you move along classic side-scrolling paths but fight in fully 3D environments. You pick from a small roster of distinct characters and tear through neon-soaked urban stages, smashing gangs, cyborgs, and big bosses while sending enemies flying into destructible objects like crates, cars, and bikes. The combat is all simple but satisfying combos, launchers, and big special moves, with that chunky arcade impact that just feels so good. It never pretends to be some huge cinematic epic, but as a focused, skill-based arcade brawler, it absolutely nails that forgotten, lost 3D beat-em-up vibe, and is perfect if you love digging into lesser-known arcade-era titles. So, yeah, That's my list of 13 absolute 3D beat-em-ups you really should at least give a try. Some of them are rough, some are ahead of their time, but all of them know how to deliver pure, simple fun. If you and your group love throwing hands, laughing at old-school jank, and finding new co-op favorites, give a few of these a shot. Thanks for watching, and let me know which one you're booting up first, and I'll see you in the next one.